the designing of the client server software architecture. Most of you are aware about this particular client server software architecture as a part of your computer networks or the other system, or developing certain systems which are client server based program. You are aware that in such type of architecture, usually there is a server and there are number of clients. Okay, so the client server architectures are based on the client service architecture pattern, the simplest of which consists of one service and multiple clients. Differentiation between a service and so there is a differentiation between a server and a service. So uh, I hope you will be able to understand this particular difference. A server is a hardware or software system that provides one or more service for multiple clients, whereas a service in a client server system is an application software component that fulfills the needs of the multiple clients. Okay, so service essentially is a software components, and it is the part of the software. Uh, it is part of an application. Okay, so the differentiation between the server and the service, uh, because services executes on server, there is sometimes confusion between the two terms, and the two terms are sometimes used interchangeably. Okay, in certain contexts, this particular terms may be used interchangeably. Sometimes a server will support just one service or perhaps more than one. On the other hand, a large service might span more than one node. Okay, so uh, in case of certain service, it may happen that it may not be using a single server, and for implementing that particular service, more than one server node are required. Okay, so that is in case of the large service. Okay, so that is the difference. That means always the server and service, it may not be same in such cases. In the client server system, the service executes on uh, a fixed server node or number of nodes, and the client to the server. Okay, so this is the typical uh, architecture of the multiple client and single service being provided. Okay, that is the multiple client single service architectural pattern is like this. So uh, the clients have been shown here as the nodes. Of course, this particular architectures, uh, software architectures, most of the time they are specified with the deployment diagram. Okay, so this is a deployment diagram wherein you show the different nodes. Okay, so you can see here that there is a single server node. So that is the single node service, and it is available to the different client through the local area network. Okay, so this is the multiple client single server architecture pattern. uh, then if you want to show the mm, uh, design of this particular software architecture uh, in detail. So in that case, For example, you have here an ATM client, okay, and this particular ATM client, in fact, is connected to uh, one of the banking service, and the other, you can say, the peripherals or devices, they are connected to this particular ATM client, and like that it is going to uh, provide services to the client using this particular peripheral. So there can be, you can say, operator, there can be some receipt printer, there can be cash dispenser, there can be ATM uh, uh, customer, uh, which may be operating with this particular ATM client. Okay. Uh, so the multiple client single server architecture pattern uh, can be specified in this particular fashion in the put into the another form. Okay, so it is the banking service is being provided. Okay, so this is what is uh, the form in which the uh, communication diagram is being shown. Okay, the architecture is same, but here what is shown is the communication design, okay, of that particular architecture. So here uh, there is a communication between the ATM client and the banking service. For example, the one of the communication has been shown here, that is send ATM transaction, and that has been shown here. So like that, you can show here the number of messages that are being sent from one node to the other node, just like in the interaction diagram, particularly that communication diagram. Okay, so you can show this particular software, the architecture as a uh, communication diagram, and in that uh, you can show the different communication, the different messages that are being passed from one node to the other node. Uh, Then the other kind of architecture, client server architecture, is this particular multiple client and multiple service architecture pattern. So in this case, there are more than one server, and this particular more than one server uh, may provide uh, a single service, particularly if it is a large service, and that particular service is being provided to this clients. Okay, uh, so depending on the part of the service being provided, the clients will be sending the messages to the appropriate server. Sometimes this particular there is so-called middleware. Okay, though here local area network is being shown here. These particular clients get connected through certain middleware, and that particular middleware automatically routes these particular messages to the appropriate servers. But sometimes in the architectures where the middleware is not being used, then all this particular client, this particular number of servers, they are visible, multiple servers are visible to the clients, and appropriately the clients, they go for, or they use the part of the service from either one server or the other server. Okay, so here only two servers have been shown, but in certain others context, there can be multiple servers, and again, of course, there can be the large number of clients offering or those will be utilizing that particular service. Okay, so this is the multiple client, multiple service architecture pattern. So this particular example, this is the example of again the client server system architecture with multiple client and multiple service architecture pattern, and particularly it is the banking federation system. So this particular bank has got two servers, okay, and there is there are different types of clients: Sunrise ATM client, then Sunset ATM client 2, then Sunrise ATM client 3, and like that. So number of clients are there which are connected to this particular banking system, and typically it is through the wide area network. Okay, because this particular ATMs, they may be situated uh, in in a region which is much away from this particular server. The bank need to give service over a region, and it need to make use of this particular wide area network in such cases. Okay, then the next type of the architecture in this is the multi-tier client server architecture pattern. Uh, in the pure client server architecture, uh, usually there are only two tiers, that is uh, the server and the client, but sometimes uh, multiple tiers can be there. For example, this particular ATM client will be will be seeking the services from the banking service, and this particular banking service may not be implementing the database based on the same server, but it will be in turn dependent for the database services on some other server. Okay, so here you have tiers of you can say the software. So database server is different. This particular server, in fact, is acting as a client as far as the database services are concerned. So this, in fact, is the client for the database server, whereas it is acting as the server for the ATM client. Okay, so such architecture is the this is the three-tier architecture, or like that you can have multiple uh, tiers in this particular client server architecture. Okay, so this is the example of the multi-tier clients service architecture.